Music. And welcome back to Masters of Modern. I'm your host, Alex Kessler, here with my co-host, Ben Bateman.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the circus. Welcome to the fair.
It's live.
It's
so live.
The history of magic.
This is being filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Yes,
we get to say that now. Yeah,
we have a special guest.
We do.
Hello! Back for a second offense, I guess.
Yeah.
Sean Penrod here from MTG Pro Tutor. Thanks, guys, for having me back.
You're welcome. So this is kind of like the other side of your podcast experience-ish, because the first one we did a Pro Tour preview, being that you're the guy from Pro Tutor, and now we're doing a lore episode, seeing that you have a lore podcast thing you're trying to put together.
That's true.
So quickly, before we get into all of our shenanigans, shout-outs, and story, your lore story is something you were trying to do, like a full-on pro retelling of the Magic story with actors, with a pro studio, sound effects, the whole deal, so that people can get really stoked on actually learning the history. We're going to do like a verbal history, an oral history, if you will, of Magic.
So make sure everyone get your smoking pipes, put on your smoking jackets, get surrounded by leather-bound books of fancy varieties, and get ready to listen.
Yeah, so basically, if you guys listen to this and you're like, oh, this was cool, wouldn't it be cool if there was an actual audiobook version of this, like an actual retelling with pro actors? This is still something that's on the table. They're still funding. It's a little short of it now, but if you guys love the story and you do want to hear that, there's a great opportunity at the end of this to go and visit, and Sean will talk all about that at the end of the podcast. So, if you like this and you like that sort of thing, then that's what you should do. And then there's more things we're going to say now, too.
Yeah.
Which are, we're on Twitter. We're the Masters of Modern podcast. We have
at theMMcast.
Yep, and we have a sister podcast,
The Command Zone,
also on RocketJump.com, just like us. That's cool. And then also the last thing is that we're all personally on Twitter. I'm Ben Bateman Media.
I am at Kess Wiley.
And I am at Shaun Penrod.
But that's SHAUN.
Correct.
I was wondering, because I was mistaken. I misspelled it. And then, of course, we have a microphone you hear us through, and it's a blue mic. And we bought it because you guys on Patreon.
Yeah, this is for the live cast. So last time we did it, and you can actually go see on YouTube because that's where it's posted. The audio is awful.
Terrible.
It's like real bad. But because, Patreon's supporting us and they're the ones that helping us accomplish this live feed, we decided to spend some of that funds to buy some sweet mics for the plug into the computer so that we have double computer sound. Yep. People complaining for your eardrums. Hopefully that I figured out how to lower the sound so it's not hurting your ears as much. Let me know if that's a problem still.
Yeah, and so going forward, that's exactly the kind of thing you'll see if you do go and support the Patreon. Obviously, there's various levels of commitment. Some of them allow you to be part of live deck techs, where you submit like your ideas, and then we read them and we critique your deck ideas live on the podcast. We do that once a month. There's live audio messages that you want to record to share with the community. We read those. There's going to be a forum we're going to be launching at some point in the future. Additional video content, and of course, the swag box, which is essentially a set amount you pay each month to have a personalized Masters of Modern product that we design and then send to you.
Right.
And that's kind of what we have going right now. We'll do some merch in the future and stuff too.
Yeah, and so far, we sent out playmats, we sent out and actually I think by the end of this episode you're gonna have to answer what your favorites are. But me and Ben each have our two favorite cards. Ben's our Spellskite and Grand Architect. Mine are Vengevine and Geist of Sagedraft. And so we sent out 4 Geist foils and 4 Grand Architects signed for the second month. And then this month, the month that just ended, we're sending out some. Because we're all about making sure you're hydrated. We did a whole episode about tournament hydration, basically.
Tournament hydration and all that.
And so we're sending out. You get 2 Masters of Modern themed metal, like
aluminum
durable
branded water bottles.
Yeah.
So we're gonna send those out, and in fact, it's quite possible that if you're attending GPLA, you will, if you have paid into that month, you'll get them in time to use them at the GP.
Yeah.
And in fact,
I'm gonna give like 50 high fives to anyone I see.
It'll be a highlight of the weekend.
So many high
somebody
fives.
has one of those with them. So, that's the thing.
Yeah. And speaking of GPLA, so GPLA is coming up in 2 weeks.
Yep.
And we're not exactly sure what exactly we're going to be doing, but make sure to stay tuned to the Twitter, to our Facebook, which is at facebook.com/theMMcast.
Yep.
Because we'll be starting to post, especially the week before that, a lot more information on what we're going to try and accomplish for that tournament. Because it's going to be sweet.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do something cool. There'll be like some sort of physical, interactive type of thing we're doing with people. So stay tuned for that because it'll be fun to hang out with some of you guys and do something. Yep. So we'll let you know. Just go to the Twitter and you'll know exactly what's going on. Without further ado, we should get into the story of Magic. And I don't know what's going on here. The story behind this is that Kessler at one point was like, "Do you guys want to hear the story of Magic?" And I was like, "No, we don't."
The story behind that is I asked you multiple times, like, oh, we could do a story episode tonight, and you're like, no.
I was like, maybe like there's a bonus episode on another podcast that I'm not involved in ever. No, but people were like, we really want to hear the lore episode, and like, look, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I think this stuff's pretty sweet. Like, I like history, and I also really enjoy Game of Thrones, and I really, really enjoy fantasy novels, and I'm a huge comic book reader, so like...
Nerd.
There's no reason I won't like this. I think I'm just stubborn and resistant to change.
Well, I think also, in your defense, you started playing Magic in the early days, and like, Magic storytelling in specific eras has been pretty mediocre.
Are you going to talk about Gerard Capuchin today?
I actually don't. I kind of like the whole Tempest block stuff is fine, but I think like all this stuff with Kamal, it's like he's like a pit fighter, and then and some stuff happens. We don't have to get into that. And all the stuff with like all of the like, there was like a period of time where like the stories would be very inherent to just that block.
Right.
So like lore and block story is like very in depth and all about like these characters that haven't been relevant since. If you look at like
Time Spiral block like interesting, or is it like
Time Spiral block is sick.
Really?
So that because what Time Spiral block is kind of like and Crisis of Infinite Earths in comic books where they like reset the rules and everything in the universe so that they could actually tell a real story. And so that's where, and then they kind of like touch upon all the characters, so that's kind of a good starting point.
Well, because there's all that, like, I love, if you guys listen to this podcast, you know that I love Time Spiral block, and I like a lot of the legends from Time Spiral, so Jorah of the Gitu, and Ithai Arcanus, and Mishra Artificer Prodigy, and like, these are all cards that I really, really like. Radha, Heir to Keld, like, these are all the legends.
So a lot of those are like legends from old stories that never got cards.
Yeah.
But the main thing that did, and it's really relevant to kind of the story from that point on, is before that point, Planeswalkers were gods.
Right.
They literally Karn created Mirrodin for funsies. So, but what that did was it made it so these characters were much more relatable that you could actually tell stories about, and they gave us the Neo Planeswalkers.
Got it.
Basically, Dominaria was being overrun by all of this time warpage. I guess is the best word to come up with. Wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff.
There we go.
And
like all the planeswalkers had to like give up their spark or something to like fix everything, so then they became slightly less god-ish.
Yeah, so like all these, and like it's kind of been the main relevant point for a lot of these character arcs. But basically, planeswalkers lost all their powers.
Right.
That's why Sorin killing Avacyn in the most recent set. Spoilers. If you didn't.
Sorin killed Avacyn?
Yeah, it's like on the card, the Vindicate.
I just read them.
The art on
Anguish Unmaking, when you lose 3 life.
Yeah. It's like Sorin, like
the game day
killing Avacyn.
Yeah, but like there's a lot of things that happen on cards that like don't actually happen the way they're perceived.
But now
they do. Yeah, they changed that.
Yeah.
When they added the double design or story team. We'll get to that in a second. But the point is that Sorin was able to make Avacyn when he was a godlike planeswalker.
I see.
Karn was able to create Mirrodin when he was a godlike planeswalker.
Okay.
Liliana didn't need to make a deal with demons because she was immortal forever, just because she was a planeswalker. But then once the whole time shift happened in Time Spiral block, Liliana became mortal. Nicol Bolas no longer was the most powerful thing in the world, or in the multiverse. And Sorin, is now just a regular old fancy planeswalker.
So
newfangled.
So why do we do this? Because I'm listening and I like all the characters and I like what's going on. But what I want to know is I'm somebody who basically I could tell you like I think I know some of these characters because I've seen them on cards. Some cards I like more than others, and like there's people who I'm like, oh, I think I know who that dude is, but like. Oh, I've seen him in 2 different colors, and he looks different here. And then I'm also... Obviously, it's a little more clear with the Planeswalkers. They've done a good job with that because...
That's pretty much all that matters now. So, like, all the characters, the other ones, are somewhat important, but for the most part, the Planeswalkers are the only characters you need to keep track of.
So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
My point is sort of like, you're like, who's Sarkhan? And I'm like, well, I know the best version of him because it's the sweetest card. I know that, like, he's these colors then, or he's these colors then, and I can kind of get an idea. For instance, like... Okay, Garrick Relentless, right? Like, that makes sense to me. It's pretty clear that, like, the backside, he's, like, tormented and kind of evil, versus, like, the previous one, he's, like, a little more good, I think. So, what I want to know is, if I'm somebody...
nothing.
If I'm somebody who kind of, like, knows nothing...
You're like Jon Snow status.
Yeah. If I'm somebody who kind of knows nothing, like, don't worry. As we're talking, like, I'll be able to jump and fill in blanks, because, like, I've played Magic long enough to, and kind of paid attention to the story. But take me from the beginning. If you were explaining this to somebody who really had no idea, they hadn't ever even looked at the cards. They literally had never looked at the cards. Where would you start?
I would start the villains. That's kind of where I start everything. It's how the better superhero movies are done. I guess the one way to start is to point out that superhero movies were doing really well.
Yep.
For the last, since Marvel started, Wizards decided, you know what? we want to try and maybe make an attempt to get a movie made of our property.
Right.
The stories that we're currently being told don't really fit in a way that studios would be interested for it, because it's not a continuous story. It's all about random characters that don't matter the next year. It's hard to show a continuation, and our main characters are these godlike beings that nothing's good about. That's why Time Spiral Block happened. That's why they decided to start making these Planeswalker cards that carry over year to year, main characters of the story, and the people we follow, because they literally were making their own version of superheroes.
So when they made Time Spiral Block, what you're saying is the idea was, we're going to do a Crisis on Infinite Earths, we're going to reboot, and that's going to be followed up by Lorwyn, which housed the first 5 Planeswalkers.
Correct.
The next year, we had the first 5 Planeswalkers.
And they were originally supposed to be in Time Spiral Block.
Got it.
They weren't fully ready with the designs of the cards up to that. Like, they weren't fully comfortable with the design they came up with, and so they waited a year to
Would they have
come up with
premiered
them.
in Future Sight, do you think, if that was the case?
Well, if you actually look at Tarmogoyf
references Planeswalker.
exactly,
Right.
and that for that reason, like they were in the works, they just weren't ready yet.
And same as Tribal and Planeswalker are both on Tarmogoyf, and both of them literally came out the next year.
But that's part of the Future Sight idea. I mean, that it makes a lot of sense if you're making cards that reference things from the future. If they were going to premiere the initial 5 Planeswalkers, for those who are listening, I can at least do this. The first 5 are Jace Beleren, Chandra Ablaze.
Nope.
What?
Chandra and Millar.
Chandra Nalaar. Liliana, the 5-mana one. The
Liliana Vess.
Liliana Vess.
It's all their names.
Garrick Relentless.
Nope. Wildspeaker.
Garrick Wildspeaker.
It's their names.
I'm doing great at this. And then Ajani, the 4-mana.
Goldmane. Yeah.
So that was the fun. But the point is,
You named like everyone consistently the second one other than Jace.
I just look at this point, like all right, whatever.
No, it's fine.
So
So there's 2 ways to look at it. You can look at it in the main characters, but the problem is that they basically started adding 5 new Planeswalkers every year for a couple consecutive years.
Right.
But if you look at the main villain storylines, you can kind of get a good idea for like the main 5 storylines of Magic right now.
Okay.
So the place I would kind of start is the Phrexians.
Who are they?
So the Phrexians are like Magic's original big bad guy. They're basically the Borg meets zombies.
Yep.
They're like some sort of like metallic zombie,
Hive mind.
and they want to like cover and take over everything.
Assimilate.
Yeah.
They want to assimilate all
They're
together.
kind of like the mimics in Edge of Tomorrow a little bit, mindless and metallic and just eat everything.
Kind of. I would say the mimics have a more Eldrazi feel to them.
Oh, gotcha.
Personally, I would say these guys are much more. Like they're the virus trope, like zombies are this kind of thing. The Borg.
Yeah, I think Borgs are really good at parallel.
Got it. Okay,
They want to take over the universe by making everyone one of them.
right. That's the Phrexian.
Super perfected robot people, and that's what they do. They like kill a person, and then you become infected, and then you become a new dude. And the infect mechanic is what kind of belongs to those characters.
Who are some of the famous Phyrexians, or are there?
So the big one is Yawgmoth.
Okay.
So like Yawgmoth's Bargain, Yawgmoth's Will, who are like 2 of the
Right.
most famous old cards. And then if you look at Tomb of Yawgmoth,
Yep.
or Borg Tomb of Yawgmoth, which is like maybe the most relevant to modern, he was kind of the king of the Eldrazi the first time around. And the Eldrazi originally were like, Phyrexian. The king of the Phyrexians the first time around. And they were very cemented in black at that point.
Right.
And
You had Phyrexian Negator. You had Phyrexian.
right.
So who's like the boss? Yawgmoth?
Yawgmoth, that was back
Had
then.
they ever made a Yawgmoth card? Am I forgetting?
No, they haven't.
They never have.
So back in the day, they didn't make cards for the main characters of their story.
How does Elish Norn fit into that?
So the whole plot of what Urza did after him and his brother fought, or whatever, we're not going to get into this, and what like all of the Tempest block stuff with the Skyship Weatherlight and draw, that's all dealing with Yawgmoth and dealing with the Phyrexians. So they beat them.
They beat the Phyrexians.
They beat the Phyrexians.
But they come back.
And all of them are dead, except like the way the Phyrexians infect things is it's through like an oily substance.
Yeah.
Phrexians? No.
Glistening oil?
Glistening oil, yeah, that's
There we
a
go.
reference to it.
Yep.
So Karn had some of it on him,
Yep.
but because Karn was a planeswalker, he no longer, he was able to fight off the, because Phyrexians can't take over planeswalkers, they can only take over non-planeswalkers.
In those days, he wasn't yet a planeswalker, or who was?
No, when he
Karn
got infected,
Silverhawk?
he was no longer, because Karn is the legacy weapon, which is what defeated. Like
Right.
he's all these pieces of this weapon that eventually killed the Phyrexians.
You're talking about Karn Silverhawk.
Yes, Karn Silverhawk.
From Urza Saga.
Yes, exactly. And then he's now the planeswalker card. Back then, he was a planeswalker that got a legendary creature card because they didn't have the type planeswalker.
So when they made the card Karn Liberated, what does that represent in his story?
So Karn loses his spark during that time spiral block shenanigans. Okay. Ends up on Karn or on Mirrodin, which he made, and then slowly the oil that was now in his body that's no longer being prevented to be him taking over because he's no longer a planeswalker takes over Mirrodin. That's the plot of new Return to Mirrodin. Scars of Mirrodin block. Is him, like, he's basically infected the plane again, and when you get to the end of it in New Phryxia, he's become this like god creature to the Phyrexians, and Venser, Koth, and Elsbeth find him, and Venser teleports his heart into Karn, killing himself and giving Venser or Karn back his spark, and that's what the Karn liberated Planeswalker card is. It's Karn liberated from the Phyrexians, now a Planeswalker again.
And he's like a super cool dude who can take on everybody because now he's got a heart. But Venser, by doing that, Venser the Sojourner, he
is dead.
He died.
Yes.
So that's why we haven't seen Venser.
Because he saved Karn, and Karn's kind of like the main deal to save everyone. Here's my theory on what's going to happen here. Next time we go to New Phryxia, so like New Phyrexians can deal with that.
Okay.
So Venser's whole deal was he was like a teleportation mage and a blue like scientist, and he was trying to figure out how to make planar portals. Which is kind of like the way Phyrexians used to get around because they can't planeswalk.
There was a card called Planar Portal, I believe, from Invasion block. It's either that, it's Invasion or what?
Invasion is the block about the Phyrexians invading into the Domain area.
I think it's a 6-mana card.
And wasn't Karn made by Urza, right?
Yeah.
Made
Karn
out of silver because silver is the only thing that can
travel through time.
Yes.
Because he's a time traveling robot.
Look at that Planar Portal, 6-mana Invasion, dead on.
You know your stuff.
Yeah, it's a Phyrexian thing.
Yep. All right.
So. That's kind of the Phyrexian storyline. The main thing what Elesh Norn is and what all the Praetors are is the new Phyrexians versus the old Phyrexians, which are like mono black. The new ones were in all 5 colors.
Got it.
And each of those colors has a main leader. There's obviously a vie for who's the best one, especially after Karn left. And I think Elesh Norn is numero uno, the one that kind of came up on top.
Cool. Certainly, she seems like the most powerful. The other 4 of which are Urabrask, the hidden.
Yeah.
Verinselex, the hidden hunger or something.
The hunger, yeah.
Hunger, the green one.
Yeah.
The black one, or the blue one is the legacy one, the Reanimator guy. Jin Gitaxis.
Yep.
Or no, he's not Reanimator. You lose your hand. Jin Gitaxis.
I mean, he's only seen playing Legacy Reanimator because you all opponents discard their hand because their hand side is 0, and you now draw 7 cards every turn.
And the black one is Shieldred the Whispering.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think the red one is technically now like working with the good guys. I don't know. I haven't looked into like the post because the other problem with this era is they weren't doing the Uncharted Realms. It was all based on books that were generally bad.
Right.
And Scars of Mirrodin block specifically had like kind of the least built-in book storylines to go along with it.
Got it. Yeah.
So that's kind of the Phyrexians. That's kind of what they're about. There's a lot more we can get into if we want to get into later. That's kind of the original Magic story and how it's still continuing a little bit today. I would say the other piece to that kind of old era of Magic that's still being told is kind of the Nicol Bolas storyline.
Okay.
This is probably the least developed at this point, where you just see Nicol Bolas had like some stuff to do when he first showed up during
in the original you met?
No. Shards of Alara.
Okay.
When he got Nicol Bolas was in Legends, one of the Elder Dragons, was a Planeswalker, and then was as godly as all the other one, and enjoying how awesomely powerful he was. Then the thing happened, the mending.
Did they ever? So let me ask you.
Your Crisis on Infinite Earths moment.
Well, so I want to ask really quickly that, unless I'm mistaken, the classic 5 were Nicol Bolas, Arcadis Sabbath, Chromium.
I know Chromium's I don't remember the original 5 Elder Dragons.
Victus Osmati, and I'm forgetting the 5th one, I think. Something. But anyway, I think that was there's 5 original ones, and they're all bad by today's standards. They're like huge. They're like enormous upkeep costs. But
weirdly enough, I think in general, I mean, this is from Commander, so not relevant to Modern. It's also not legal in Modern, but the Nicol Bolas original card is still pretty decent. It's one of the better Grixis Commander cards. Generals, because when it hits its abilities, when it hits someone, they discard their whole hand, which is just extremely powerful.
He's fine. I mean, they're still all like very, very bad by today's standards.
And he doesn't have a cumulative upkeep. You pay 3 mana every upkeep.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that in the story, they haven't done anything else to make note of Victus Osmati or Chromium or Arcadis Sabbath or these other ones. It was just Nicol Bolas was the only one that they decided to do anything with. Is that correct?
So far, yeah. I mean, he's the big baddie that keeps showing up in some way, shape, or form, and the other ones are kind of
Palladium Wars. That's the 5th
obscure.
one.
Okay.
I had that card.
So some things on this. Urbrask is from Stark Maximum. Urbrask is in fact secretly working with the Resistance because since the red Phrexians are able to tap into emotions, they're the only ones that feel any degree of empathy.
Gotcha.
Elish Norn this is from Smirtineveri. I'm not going to read that correctly. He believed that Mirrans should be allowed, Elish Norn was generally considered the strongest, though Jin Kitaxius and her were consistently at odds with one another. Urbrask did not stop the Mirrans from traveling through the furnace level of Mirrodin because of the need to tie to freedom. He believed that the Mirrans should be allowed to fight for their freedom, even if it was entirely futile.
Got it.
Which is super dope in terms of color pie philosophy and Phyrexian lore. Bolas destroyed all the other Elder Dragons.
Ah, there you go. That's why you don't have any more
Bolas
dragons.
is super evil.
Yeah, he's a bad dude.
So, the mending happened.
Okay.
That's
That's
Times Power Block. So Nicol Bolas loses all of this intergalactic power. You know, what's the line Genie says in Aladdin?
Phenomenal cosmic power.
Yes, he no longer has phenomenal cosmic power.
I see.
So he he decides to cause conflicts, which is what the kind of the story in that block is that he notices that there's this plane that was shattered into 5 new planes, and he thinks by bringing them together, the amount of magic that gets expended by that will make him have
phenomenal cosmic power.
I see.
So that's the kind of the plot of that. He kills Johnny's brother. That's why Johnny's all like vengeant. We also get introduced. Yeah, we get
He got
introduced.
the scar on his eye now, or that he already always had that.
I don't know.
Does he have a scar on his eye? Or am I just confusing him with Scar from the Lion King?
I don't. He might have a scar.
You keep talking.
All right. So that happens. This is also when basically he brings into his employ through mind manipulation. I think he completely erases the mind of Tezzeret, who is also introduced in this block, and he basically makes Sarkhan go crazy. This is the origin of Sarkhan.
Got it.
And where it's relevant kind of moving forward.
He totally does lose his eye. I was dead on.
Nice.
Right? That's him. Left eye. Go
Oh,
on.
yeah. It's
look
going
at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it. All right.
It's not just the Lion
Dead
King.
eye.
Yeah.
This is a lot of Disney comes into this. All right, so we're on Nicol Bolas. So Nicol Bolas brings those 2 people into his employ, and that's kind of the last we've seen from him, other than him sending out Tezzeret to the new Phyrexia planet to kind of deal with the Phyrexians and see what's going on there, and him sending Sarkhan to the Eye of Ugin.
Got it.
And that'll be kind of the last one because that's the current storyline we're going through right now, and I'll get to Sarkhan in a minute.
Okay.
The fourth kind of storyline is basically just surrounding Liliana the Veil.
Okay.
She's the hero of these, but there's this thing called the Raven Man that we don't know a whole lot about, but he's basically this weird not planeswalker ghost thing.
Got it. Yeah. He pops up in a recent story.
Yeah. So he's kind of following Liliana around, trying to figure torment her.
Yep.
And we don't know much about him. He's kind of the setup for what her storyline is going to be moving forward. The other thing is she's also ancient.
Liliana is.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
And she, like Nicol Bolas, like Karn, like all these other guys, when the time mending stuff happened, lost a lot of her power, and so she was immortal, but now she's really, really, really old. So to gain her immortality and her power back, she made a deal with 4 demons.
Yep.
Grizzlebrand is one of them. Nericoplex, he's the demon that was in M14 or 15, M15, or no, Magic Origins, the black legendary demon in Magic Origins.
Yeah.
I can't say his name.
Koflin?
Koflin, yeah, him.
Got it.
So like he's one of the demons. There's 2 other ones that I don't remember their names. Their names are out there, but I don't feel like looking it up because they're
And this
having
is
cards.
the demonic pact.
Yeah. So like she's made a demonic pact, exactly. Also a card, the one that you can lose.
Yeah.
So made these deals, and now she's trying to kill them because she doesn't like having her life threatened by it, and that's how she got the Chain Veil, which is
the thing that gives you the extra deal. You get the extra turn, right?
you get extra counters on each planeswalker when you tap it. And basically, it's making her super powerful, but it's also cursed and making her go crazy, and other stuff is happening that we haven't figured out.
So let me ask you with Liliana. All right, so Liliana Vest becomes Liliana of the Veil, or at least that's the next iteration.
Yeah,
of
that's
her.
when she got the Chain Veil.
Gotcha. Liliana of the Veil. Get you.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's more powerful with that but she's also going crazy.
You could argue she's literally the most powerful.
Right.
Legally.
Because the Chain Veil clearly, and as evidence.
Well, because Jace is banned. I'm saying in modern.
Yeah. Oh, in modern?
Yeah.
Got it. I thought you were just saying in the story.
I mean, in the story, I think Nicol Bolas is probably Karn, Ugin.
Because he's basically Unicron from the Transformers.
All the
movie.
8 mana planeswalkers are better, but yeah. Continue.
No, I just was going to say, as evidenced by the fact that in that card, the Chain Veil is like unplayable by modern standards, pretty much. But like, if you're going to just go like on a basic power level, it's a very powerful and unique effect that almost you've never gotten. So the fact that she has that, the ability to do that in the story to some degree, makes her immensely powerful.
So you mentioned, where does it come from? The chain bell.
There's these weird tribe dudes.
Yeah, we don't know really the origins.
We know their name. Basically, this tribe of plain people, I want to say aliens because it feels like aliens, created it. All their whole society is dead, and like all their ghosts are inside of it.
Okay.
But the Garrick Relentless, I think.
Right.
The Garrick that flips.
Yeah.
So him flipping, he's not just coming angry, he's being corrupted by the chain bell.
Right.
Liliana curses
him. You can see
him.
when he's got like some dark stuff on his face and he looks like he's screaming on the backside.
Yes, exactly. Because that's from the chain bell.
Got it.
So one of the theories for Shadows of Innistrad of what's causing all of this madness, the two prime candidates, one is Emrakul, who it's most likely, and then there's the slightly less but possible chance is that it's the chain bell.
Right.
Those are like the two possible options.
Like the chain bell in and of itself is causing the madness.
Is like, or like is forcing Liliana to like save herself. She's unleashing it
we'll
on
get
the planet.
into details on that.
Well, that's the last section. Once we get to we're at the 25 mark. All right. Any other comments from the crowd?
Who's this Ben Bateman guy?
All right. Ravenman has been theorized to be possibly Limdol of Yawgmoth. So like a Yawgmoth.
Limdul, that's an old card. That's old. Yeah.
Limdul's Vault.
Oh, the other demon names for Liliana are Belzenlock,
Balsamon from
Belzenlock and Razaketh are the other two. Liliana is one of the last living pre-Mending Walkers and likely the most powerful of the main story walkers, right behind Sorin and Ugin.
Here's a card. Here's a card for the folks that probably don't remember this because it's real.
Oh, it's the Anaki of Chandalar. Bam.
Limdul's Vault. You remember this card? This card is sweet. Let me read this.
It's like a pseudo Tutor brainstorm all at once.
Yeah, it's weird. It's an instant. It's
blue and black.
It's a blue and black. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. As many times as you choose, you may pay 1 life to put those cards on the bottom of your library and look at the top 5 cards of your library. Shuffle all but the top 5 cards of your library. Put those 5 on top of your library in any order. So you basically get to stack the top 5 of your deck over and over and over again, and put if you don't like them, just put them on the bottom for 1 life. You don't get a card out of it.
Yeah,
but it's still sweet.
It's basically
I
a
think I
vampire
remember
tutor.
Sitting for minutes on end waiting for somebody to resolve this in a Commander game. And
Horribly designed card.
What is this doing?
For the sake of gameplay.
Isn't there another Limdul card? Is a black skeleton guy with like a book and his hands out like this?
I think that's him.
Yep.
Limdul himself.
Yeah. So that's what people think the Ravenman is. I don't. I feel like that's really obscure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure who it is. It's going to be interesting to find out. But last thing, the Onaki of Chandalar are the alien spirits inside of the chain bell. They're the ones. Chandalar's relevant. I hate Chandalar. I'm gonna say it right here. Just the plane. I hate that we go there. I'm really glad corsets are gone, so we don't have to go back there.
Like one of Magic's most favorite planeswalkers came from there. So
who?
Chandra. Isn't she from Chandalar?
No.
Oh, I got her.
She's from Kaladesh, and Kaladesh is sick.
Yeah, Chandra of Kaladesh.
Yeah, it's like the Thopter plane.
Where the heck is Chandalar?
Chandalar is the one that like the core set has been based on. It's like it's like
the Dominaria.
Dominaria light.
It's
so the problem with Dominaria is an apocalypse, is like a post-apocalyptic land, so it's hard to do like generic stories there.
Sia sings about it, right? I want to swing on a chandelier, right? No?
Yeah, that's it.
Never mind.
We're going back to Chandalar eventually, most likely. You're right. We probably
there was
from Stark Maximum.
In that core set, there was one from each plane. Oh my gosh, the 6 mana.
I'm with Siryu over here, 1996. He wants to see Kaladesh also. That was probably my favorite of the new planes from Origins, because they did the 5 different planes that we saw where 2 of the characters are from.
Yeah,
definitely the coolest one. All right,
Avatars. That was it. In the core set, they had Avatar of Theros, Avatar of Chandalar was the red one.
Yes, and it was originally going to be Avatar of Tarkir, and it should have been, but they last minute changed it to Chandalar because reasons.
Interesting.
Lame reasons.
It's having to do with Theros, right? Not fun.
All right, so moving on storyline wise, the Eldrazi. So this has kind of been the main storyline for the last 2.5 years.
People love War of the Worlds. They love like gigantic
That's a good
Asian
point.
aliens.
Yeah, and like the Cthulhu level stuff, and all the Eldrazi
yeah.
things, and in general, Zendikar has this kind of sweet spot in everyone's hearts because it's where we all kind of came back to Magic. M10 followed by Zendikar is where they had the largest influx of new players in a long, long time. So
Is that still the case, or it just was for a couple of years? It feels like it's still been just like spiking like crazy.
every year it's 20%. I think it's still last year. I think last year it didn't go up that high.
Wow, it still went up.
Yeah, they've gone up 300% since Shards of Alara.
I know. I came.
100%.
Yeah.
That's a lot of players.
Wow.
That's awesome. I came back at the very
Estimated.
end of New Phrexian. Like my first draft ever was a New Phrexian draft. I had no idea what I was doing, and then ever since Innistrad, I've gone every pre-release. But I originally came in on Gerard and Volrath and back in the Tempest.
Well, that's no. Tempest was when I first originally played.
Yeah, and
I
then-
stopped once
too.
Portal came. Not Portal. Unglued. Unglued got me to quit because Unglued is dumb.
It's amazing. I never realized this early, but like you talk to people about Magic, and there's a very sorry, I'll just segue for a second. We'll get back to the story.
Sure.
There's a very consistent
It's the
pattern
live cast. We can't control what's going on.
when you talk to folks who used to play Magic, and it's a very, very consistent pattern. You pretty much can trace the most common point people will reference is 1997. People played in Tempest. They just, for whatever reason, Tempest was like that block. The slivers, everything.
That was the first time. That was right after Portal came out. It was the first national super distribution around the country.
So you find, and in my mind, I thought everybody had the same experience I did growing up, which was that I started at Fallen Empire's 4th edition. That's because my older brother taught me to play in 1995.
And you're from Seattle.
Right, so it was closer to home. And in my mind, when I think about, you talk to people who really played back in the day, they'll reference like Revise. Rarely do you meet somebody who played during Unlimited or Beta. Revise is as old as it usually gets for people, but like the most common spot tends to be that Tempest block. Other than that, you talk to people who, like everybody who played back then fell off and came back somewhere in the last 5 years. That tends to just kind of be the story. I think it's so interesting though that like it's that same spot for everybody because they always say to you, I have a bunch of old Magic cards, and you go, what year about were you playing? And if they're like 97, you're like, you have nothing. And then they're like 94, you're like, you've got a ton of money in a box somewhere. It's called a dual deck. Find it.
Yeah, Mark Rosewater said that it's very common that the average Magic player drops out for like 9 years, has a 9-year gap, and then they come back, and that's maybe not average now.
Well, I thought that they played for 7 years. I don't know. You might be right.
Maybe. There is a gap. It's common. It's very common for Magic players to play, have a gap, and then come back. And so, and for me, the reason why Tempest stands out so much is because of the story. Like they used to have little, almost like comic books that came in the boxes. You would buy like a box of cards, and you have the rules, and then you have like a little book that has pictures and stories, and that's how I know and remember Gerard and Volrath and Squee and all those little guys.
Well, it's also the only time they ever did it, so you can actually line all the art up in Tempest, and the flavor text and the art will actually tell the story of Tempest block.
The whole set?
The whole set.
Oh my god.
There's also a cool thing is they designed the legends from Invasion block, all of the characters from the Skyship Weatherlight to all be like actually pretty sweet. Like they're not like amazing, but they're all pretty sweet. So like there's the Captain Sisse, which is
Tutor's
cool.
legendary creatures.
Yep.
She's a captain.
Right, that's awesome. There's Hannah, Ship's Navigator. She has a really unique ability. She can get back enchantments and artifacts from her graveyard.
She's a commander, right?
For an artifact.
All of them are.
Well, I know, but they reprinted her as a commander.
For like an activation, there's those two.
She's Bant, I think.
I know that when they made in the third set in that block, Airtide the Corrupted, he's pretty sweet. He's the Esper colored one. But anyway, no, I just think it's cool. They did a good job in that time, like in those time with those characters for a few years of making the cards memorable. They hadn't figured out.
That was the first time they ever tried doing these are main characters. We're going to tell a story about it, and to do it, they had to create the Weatherlight, the system that lets them travel from plane to plane because they are a multi-plane story, and planeswalkers are too strong. So.
And even that Skyship Weatherlight was a cool card. The Legacy weapon was a cool card.
Yeah.
Like those are all things that even though I didn't know what was going on, when I think about like that time, I definitely do get a sense. Sisse's maneuver, I think, or right, Gerard's maneuver, Sisse's maneuver. There's cards that like reference what's going on.
Right.
So anyway, keep going.
So that's been happening recently. That's what English I'm making is cards telling what's going on in the story.
Yeah.
Like back in the day.
Little moments, I think they call them.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Every set I think has 4 is what they're aiming for. 5 that tell the actual story.
They want you to be able to buy a box and have a sense of what happened.
Right.
Speaking of what's happening right now with the Eldrazi. So the actual Eldrazi story starts way back. And we never actually got this as a set. This is only really prevalent in the Commander set that had the Planeswalkers.
Right.
So this is what happened when Nahiri is printed.
Okay.
And this is the origin of the Eldrazi getting locked on Zendikar. So Ugin, the Spirit Dragon, Sorin, who you know, and Nahiri all together lock the Eldrazi on Zendikar.
Got it.
Sorin's able to, use his draining magic to weaken them. Ugin's using the power of colorlessness to kind of stop them from using their powers.
And then Sorin.
No, and Nahiri uses her ability to do stuff with rocks called geomancy.
Oh,
Geomancy?
Cool.
Lithomancy, right?
Lithomancy, to create all the hedrons that create the prison for the Eldrazi.
So, because of his casting cost and the fact that he's like a giant sweet dragon, how powerful is Ugin in like contrast to like many of the other planeswalkers? Is he more powerful than most?
He's more powerful than the new planeswalkers. I would say, look at the converted mana cost, and that's probably an idea of how powerful they are comparably to the other planeswalkers.
Okay.
Like, if they were to meet each other, they would, Ugin could probably straight up murder everyone, but Nicol, Bolas, and Karn?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, yeah.
Maybe,
I mean, that was the whole Khans of Tarkir thing, was him getting in a tussle with Nicol Bolas.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who could maybe take them on. Jace, maybe, just from, mind control as a broken ability.
Well, if we're going off converted mana cost, and I guess that means Elspeth could probably almost. Because she's 6.
How powerful is?
We're not even going to end Elspeth's storyline.
How powerful was gigantic Garruk when he at that point in the story?
He's pretty powerful because he has Chainmail Corruption plus his normal intended I'm just bigger than everyone and I have a giant axe.
He's -5 destroy target.
He's 9'9" and all muscle.
Awesome. I like that Garruk a lot. Right.
Garruk and Karn, I feel like could duke it out.
Sweet.
So I'm gonna say, alright, so let's start with they locked the Eldrazi. Then
and why were the Eldrazi there in the first place?
So the Eldrazi are just kind of like Galactus. They're literally based on Galactus. They're, as far as Ugin is concerned, this is the only person we have for information on this, they are an inherent part of how the universe deals with itself. They're a part of the universe's ability to digest and function, which is what Galactus is. Galactus is an inherent important part of how the universe exists in the Marvel universe.
Got it. So the Eldrazi though, they're like nature. They're But they're like the most evil, devouring, parasitic form of nature there is. Yeah.
So the way they describe the Eldrazi in storyline to kind of get an idea of what they actually are. So the Titans you see on cards are actually not the Eldrazi.
Correct.
They're kind of like if I was an Eldrazi and the underwater, like a pond, was the reality, and I'm an Eldrazi in the Aether, which is above the pond, and I reached my hand down there.
Okay.
That's my hand is what kind of the Eldrazi are representative of.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah, the Eldrazi exist in the Blind Eternities, which is the space between planes.
Pretty much. So when Nahiri locked him in there, she really didn't lock the full Eldrazi there. She just locked the
hands.
It's more like the head.
The tentacles.
They're sticking their head underwater.
The idea of it was pretty much like a monkey jar or a raccoon jar, whatever it's called. You see greedy animals, raccoons or monkeys, they'll stick their hand inside a jar, they'll grab a banana, and then they can't take it out because they make a fist, they won't let it go. So they basically are trapping the fist or the head or some physical representation of the Eldrazi on a plane, in this case Zendikar, so that way they can't drift off and consume other planes.
Right. Now,
so they still exist, but they're just trapped.
Do you think that the general, Eldrazi, the actual Titans themselves are always very popular to Magic players?
Sure.
But this last, I didn't feel that Battle for Zendikar and Oath of the Gatewatch was actually a particularly popular set, relative to some of the most popular. Do you think it's likely that at some point we will go back there again and they'll escape again? Or do you think we've seen the last of them for a while?
So we'll get there.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we're currently in first Zendikar block. So the plot of the original Zendikar block is Nissa is racist at this point. But
Nissa Worldwaker? Nissa Revain.
This is Nissa Revain. Who's the one that makes elves. Yeah. She is on the plane. Sorin's on the plane. And they're trying, she's trying to, she had a vision of the Eldrazi and is trying to, get them off of her plan.
Black Sorin. Sorin Marker.
Black Sorin. Yeah, original Sorin. And so, they kind of go on an adventure to deal with that.
Got it.
At the same time, Chandra stole this scroll. And the scroll had Ugin style magic on it. It's is written by Ugin. It's like a scroll of his. And she's traveling on, and Jace is trying to also get this scroll because someone told him to get it. I think it's the Ravnikins.
I was gonna say, yeah, his whole thing, he gets mixed up with Liliana and Ravnica, and she like enlists him to be part of some like spy organization or whatever that they end up taking down together. But that's
for whatever reason, and that's what the duel deck was back in the day. The Chandra versus Jace was Jace and Chandra trying to get this scroll from each other in like a cat and mouse kind of deal.
How does Jace always like? Let me just ask. It's because I know it's because he's the hero of the story. I know Jace is their favorite character. Like I know.
So this is actually a really weird misconception. Jace happens to be two of the most powerful planeswalkers ever printed, but Jace has only been the main character of a block twice.
Ravnica block, the second
Return to Ravnica block, and Shadow of Innistrad. This is the second time Jace has been the main character of a block. He's only one other time been the main face of a set, and that was Worldwake. So in 8 years of Planeswalkers, Jace has been a main character 2.5 times.
But my point is, how does Jace manage to always get mixed up and have another version of himself printed in yet another story?
Core sets. So Jace is one of the only 2 Planeswalkers that's been in every single core set ever.
And he's
core set doesn't have to do with the story.
Normally not.
Not really. Yeah.
Sometimes
he's
like
also
Garrick's
like
was
pet planeswalker pretty much because so many people love him. Like we're getting outside story. He's just relatable and that that picked on kid that like rises up to be the hero.
He's a kid who's too smart for his own good, who is kind of reclusive and doesn't want he's a Magic player.
So then if they make a story for the movie, which that should be what we talk about at the end of the whole story, because we can hypothesize.
I think we could do a whole extra episode on the movie. But yeah, sure.
Would Jace be like he would end up being Liu Kang essentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Mortal Kombat reference for those.
I think Jace would be comparable to what Captain America or Iron Man are in the Marvel movies.
One of the 2 major ones. They would just elevate him for the purpose of the movie to being like.
I don't think it's even elevated. I think he's that already.
Yeah.
I think he's that in the Magic storyline. Not to mention.
Got it.
So Jace and Chandra are getting the scroll. Chandra comes to Zendikar.
Okay.
And Jace follows, and they eventually show up at the Eye of Ugin.
Okay.
Waiting at the Eye of Ugin at Nicol Bolas's behest is Sarkhan.
But now he's Sarkhan
the Mad. So Sarkhan's been chilling in the Eye of Ugin. So, I guess we could. Okay, so we missed this part. Before Zendikar, even Nicol Bolas kills Ugin.
Got it.
Like right after right after they lock the Eldrazi, Nicol Bolas shows up, kills Ugin.
What
Ugin's
form was
dead.
Ugin in at that point?
This is pre-mending.
He was like an actual dragon.
Both of them are like super gods.
Yeah,
got it.
Like it basically almost destroys the plane for both of them to die. At this point, Ugin's just by existing was like pooping out storm clouds that birthed the dragons, and that's where all the dragons on Tarkir came from.
Sweet.
So that happened. Nicol Bolas kills Ugin.
And that was like a battle of titans, like.
That
was like Optimus Prime fighting Megatron in the Transformers movie.
Exactly that. And then end scene. So now we're at the Eye of Ugin. Sarkhan is stuck in there, and Ugin is basically Ghost has been talking to him for like a year, driving him crazy. So he's hearing voices and he's going mad. So Chandra shows up with Jace, and the 3 of them start fighting each other. Sarkhan becomes a giant dragon. Chandra uses Ghost Fire magic, which is Ugin's type of magic, colorless magic, and Jace does Jacey things.
Oh, cool. Yeah. The card Ghostfire? That's what that's from?
Yeah. It says Ugin on it. Yeah.
Oh, sick.
And all said and done, the fact that you had a colorless mage, a dragon, colors fire, a dragon, plus 3 planeswalkers all in one place, unlocks the Eldrazi.
Got it.
At the same time, Nissa and Sorin on their little adventure, Nissa somehow convinces Sorin to let her blow up what's holding the Eldrazi locked onto Zendikar, allowing them to leave.
Okay.
And that is Zendikar block.
Okay.
Sarkhan, then in his madness, starts looking for Ugin.
Because
Ugin has to be alive. Where is he?
And Sarkhan, who's mad, that's why his ability is he has the random factor. I draw a card, but I like kill myself by being too greedy because I'm crazy, or I can make something into a dragon.
Right.
I can also make something. Right. So you can destroy things and turn them into dragons.
Well, so Sarkhan's storyline from the beginning is Sarkhan is a dragon mage, and so Sarkhan started on Khans. On Tarkir, and there's no dragons anymore. And he's like, oh man, I really want to see some dragons. And then his spark happens, and he ends up on Junt in one of the shards of Alara.
Got it.
And there he's like, oh man, dragons, these are sweet, but they're all like he's looking for like the smart dragons of his world, and these dragons are much more just like angry sky beasts.
He's kind of like a crazy male Khaleesi in some ways.
Yes, exactly that. So on this plane, he eventually sees Nicol Bolas. He's like, oh man, Nicol Bolas, this is the guy. This is my dude.
This is the dragon.
This is the dragon of dragons. I'm gonna worship him. And so in that, manipulating him, Nicol Bolas then sends him to the Eye of Ugin to try and get him to open it, because he knows that you need a dragon mage there to help open it. Which happens. Then Sarkhan's like, oh man, but he realizes that Nicol Bolas is kind of a problem because Ghost Ugin's like being like, yo, dog, get out of there.
Kill me. Yeah.
So he then goes back to Tarkir because Ugin kind of leads him there.
Got it.
And him and Soren, in a Marty McFly kind of way, get sent back in time.
Got it.
So, he realized that Ugin is dead. He finds the crypt of Ugin. But using Ugin's dead body, him being super god dragon dude when he died, is able to travel back in time right before the battle between Nicol Bolas and Ugin.
And that's Sarkhan.
That's Fate
Triumphant?
Reforged.
Oh, yeah. Or Sarkhan.
No, Sarkhan's not there yet. That's when Ugin shows up. That's the first time we get the Ugin card, is Fate Reforged.
But when Sarkhan travels back in time,
I will get to...
That's Temur Sarkhan?
No. So the one that travels back in time is Sarkhan Dragon Slayer?
The red
Dragon
one.
Speaker.
The
Mono red one. So he's there, he shows up, he goes back in time. He kind of falls in love with Narset before going back in time, goes back in time, saves Ugin.
Okay.
Basically, Nicol Bolas kills Ugin.
Yep.
But before he dies, he uses a piece of a hedron that he still has, not a hedron crab, just straight up hedron. He mills him 3 times every place land. No, and then he latches it onto Ugin. It forms a space cocoon, and Ugin heals himself over the next 1,000 years.
Got it.
Sarkhan then, because time magic, is ripped out of time and put back onto modern day Tarkir.
Got it.
All the dragons are back because instead of Ugin dying and the storms going away, Ugin's been napping, but the storms have been going crazy, which is where the new Elder Dragons came from. And Ugin's back, and Narset is now a planeswalker.
Got it.
Her spark left, and that is where Blue Temur Sarkhan came from. So Sarkhan has been every color combination but white.
Sarkhan Unbroken is
he was Red-Green on Jund because he's all animal dragons, and then he was mad, so he was red-black, and then he was mono red. And then now he's blue.
He might be one of my favorite Sarkhans, or Sarkhan might be one of my favorite planewalkers just for the sake of I just kind of like his role in the story. I also just like his cards in general, though none of them are ever powerful enough to actually be played in a format that I like. They're all too expensive or cumbersome, and we even talked about this for Modern. Sarkhan Unbroken is a sweet card, but it doesn't do anything you can't already get just with a better card.
Yeah. Right.
But it's just close, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's really close. And Temur's a sweet color combination.
No, I like Sarkhan for this reason because of the story. He's basically Marty McFly. So he's Marty McFly, Ugin's Doc Brown.
And now he's traveled back in time, man. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Narset's the actress who got replaced in the second Back to the Future movie. If anyone on the Twitch stream knows who the actress is, let us know.
I'm thinking, but...
So that happens. So now Ugin's back.
Right.
Ugin goes... Now that he's back, it's oh man, the Eldrazi are back. He goes back to Zendikar, and he's chilling in the Eye of Ugin being oh, what happened? Meanwhile, Gideon's yo, we need to kill these Eldrazi.
Right. Because Gideon came from...
Rise Eldrazi. He showed up fighting the Eldrazi.
He just was a random...
No, so Gideon starts off in Theros, and he was a troubled youth, and he got put in prison for reasons. He learned how to use his...
indestructible.
His hieromancy?
Hieromancy, yeah.
Hieromancy.
How did he
battle magic?
Theros? If Theros happened years after.
No. So his first Planeswalker card is Rise of Eldrazi.
Yeah, right.
He shows up. He's fighting the Eldrazi. He's a badass knight dude. Has a cool Saral, which is metal whips that come out of your hand.
Oh yeah.
Indestructible dude. Then we find out in Magic Origins his storyline, which he's from Theros originally. Right. He was all about.
That's Kithion.
Exactly. So he goes off on a quest to basically... Tragic Arrogance is him thinking that he could kill Erebos, and Erebos is nope, and just kills all of his buddies. And so when he looks around and sees that...
all of his friends are dead.
He's indestructible, right? So he goes all turtle shell, and all his friends die. He looks around, he realizes that it was completely his fault.
And he gets warped to Bant.
Yeah, his spark ignites, and he planeswalks for the first time to Bant, and then that's why we see... So his first printed card is back there, even though his origin.
And that's where so basically Gideon is his name with an accent that's not Therosian.
Got it.
So Kithion is Theros accent. Gideon is Alara block accent.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people had a problem with, and I'm it took me a while to settle on this, but I'm pretty sure just he grew up. I have friends who are Indian or even Turkish who have their name that are said a certain way, but because so many people say it a certain way, they're just fine, this is my name. And then that's how they introduce it to people. So I had a friend Hari, and his name is actually Harui. But he goes by Hari because no one's ever going to get that. And I had so it's kind of that is the way I'm going to say it. It went down, and then the spelling is because you're translating planes to English. None of that makes sense.
Yeah, true.
Right.
they just wave that away. But
so that's where he comes from, and his whole thing is he's white planeswalker, right? Protection, the army and all that stuff. Exactly. So he's all hey, we have a responsibility as planeswalkers. We can do what nobody else can do. We can travel from plane to plane, and we can defend them from things that they can't defend themselves from. And so he takes it upon himself to cleanse Zendikar of these Eldrazi, and he starts doing everything he can to enlist the other planeswalkers to come help him. And some are more apt to do it than others. Obviously, Nissa's on board because it's her plane.
Right.
And then he somehow ropes Jace into it, and then Chandra eventually comes around. She originally was no, I'm going to go off and do my own thing.
Well, Jace feels obligated because he's the cause of it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Him and Chandra kind of is the same deal. Chandra comes back and she's oh man, I guess this was my fault.
So it turns out, actually, that from a storytelling standpoint, Magic Orange is one of the coolest things that ever happened.
It consolidated a lot of things.
I really liked it because it gave you the history. You see the demon, you see the demonic pact, you see Kithion's origins, you learn about Jace and why he's all cool, and Chandra.
Kithion, Shaun,
and then the
Liliana.
green one.
Nissa.
Yeah, and so we got Nissa. Yeah, we got Nissa.
This is really boring.
Got it.
Yeah, she kind of is. But
Cool.
She needs. They gave her a character flaw, and it's really, really, really not going to work as a main character for them because she's a racist.
Just straight up.
In the first time you see Nissa, she's kind of a villain and straight up racist.
Huh.
And they kind of retconned that, so she's no longer racist. But by retconning that, now she's just kind of. The professor from Tolarian Community College did really good videos of him interviewing each of the main 5 planeswalkers.
Got it.
Jimmy Wong, who from the Command Zone, is actually Jace in these 5 videos.
Cool.
And goes over the character flaws. And the Nissa one's really good because she's I'm perfect and I love trees. And he's you're a racist. No.
that was good.
That's my Nissa invitation. But okay, so. Ugin's there.
Yeah.
Eventually, Gideon gets all these guys to join in. Jace finds out from Ugin that Ugin's no, don't kill the Eldrazi. Right. They're important for the reality of the world. We don't know what that will cause. And Jace is well,
I can't think of anything else.
Nah.
Everything we've tried doesn't work.
So they try to trap them, and then the demon guy.
Is it actually? Is he
Omnixilis messes everything
correct,
up.
or is Ugin being influenced by the evil?
I think Ugin's correct.
Yeah, so Ugin's thing was to trap them again, right? So again, the whole keep the fist here so they can't drift things. So they come up with this whole Hedron network that they align, right? So the Hedron alignment, all that stuff. And
that's a card.
Yeah, it was going to work. It was going to work, and they were pushing the last one in place and everything. And our boy Omnixilis, oh hey, there's a perfect opportunity for me to get my spark
Omnixilis
back.
both steals all of the energy to get his spark back, while also calling Kozilek at the same time, who is underground.
What a d-bag.
And so they're well, we're not going to be able to do this, but Jace being oh, I know where the ley lines are. Nissa, you channel them. And then she's all right, got the ley lines working together. I'm going to pull all of the Eldrazi into, instead of them being just their heads in, they bring them fully onto the plane.
Got it.
And then Chandra's I'm going to use this ley line magic to blow them up. And then Gideon's I'll make sure the other Eldrazi don't kill you. Which is kind of boring, but whatever.
Hey, every role's important.
Yeah, every role's important. So that's how the 2 Titans were killed.
So, okay, in this universe, just the story of Magic and all this, because it's all it's extremely what's the word I'm looking for? Archetypal. It is, but I'm looking for something else. But the whole good and evil is very clearly pronounced.
Sure.
So, is there
they do have different versions. I mean, the Eldrazi aren't really evil; they're just mindlessly hungry, and then the Phrexians are more classically evil in a sense that they want to convert everyone to the way of life. And
so, in the sense that
Nicol Bolas is very I am the only important thing in the world, which is kind of the classic sense of evil. But
in the sense that one ring to rule them all type of thing. What's the ultimate evil? What's the
Right now, if we were to peg something, I would go with Nicol Bolas.
Yeah, so I would say
Sauron.
Yeah, like if you look at like different archetypes, like the Joker is, and then this is going into I guess D&D like character trait charts where there's like chaotic good, chaotic evil, chaotic neutral. The Joker is chaotic evil, and there really isn't a great analog to the Joker. But Nicol Bolas is the like I will kill anyone, do anything I want to make me the most powerful person, which is kind of what our classic definition of evil. He is a dictator. He's very Trump-esque.
He's Sauron. He's just 100% Sauron.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Versus, like, I would say the Eldrazi are much more comparable to Galactus, I guess. I mean, it's literally what they are. But I'm trying to think of a good Lord of the Rings-y.
Nah, just keep going.
Yeah. So, kill the two Eldrazi. Then Jace, on the behest of Ugin and Sorin. Well, so Ugin, like, when he first shows up, sends Sorin to go find Nahiri. Because he's like, okay, Sorin, you, me, and Nahiri need to fix this.
Right.
We need to trap these Eldrazi. So Sorin goes off to find Nahiri. Then Jace is like, hey, help me defeat these guys. And he's like, no, I'm waiting for Sorin and Nahiri. And Jace is like, okay, I'm going to do this anyways with my own buddies. Peace. But
who are his buddies that he gets?
The Gatewatch. Nissa, Gideon, Chandra. So...
Watch.
Exactly. The Gatewatch is basic. Everything's Game of Thrones. Yeah. I was actually really sad there wasn't a legendary wall in Khans of Tarkir block.
Right.
Moving on. No, Khans of Tarkir block was basically Game of Thrones, the story. But moving beyond that, we're going towards... All right, set over Innistrad block. Jace then goes looking for Sorin, because Sorin has disappeared. Sorin goes to his home plane, and Nahiri is messing it up.
Yeah, so what's going on here is originally they had this deal, right? We had Ugin, Sorin, Nahiri, and they were the original ones who trapped the Eldrazi and stuff like that. So Nahiri is from Zendikar, and she's like, all right, I'm going to stay here and monitor things. If anything happens, I'm going to call you guys, and you come help me.
Got it.
And they're like, all right, cool, not a problem. So Sorin goes off and does his thing. And what his thing is he goes on Innistrad and he does the whole balance of power. He creates Avacyn because the vampires are going crazy and eating everything, and so Avacyn needs to be there to kind of keep things in check. That took a lot of his power, so he kind of goes into hibernation mode. I don't know, he's vampires. He lays down in a crypt somewhere and like chills out. And because he did that and he set up some wards or whatever. The theory, what he thinks happened is he didn't get the message. And here he said, help, help, help. Well, Ugin was dead, and Sorin was in sleep mode, so he didn't get the message. And so after the Eldrazi are all trapped and stuff like that, she goes, well, that's not cool. Now, you promised. You said you're going to come, and you didn't come. So she goes off to Innistrad to find them, figure out what's going on. And yeah, so that's why she starts wreaking havoc on his plane. She's like, I'm going to do to your plane what happened to my plane.
You're talking about Avacyn?
No, Nahiri. Nahiri goes over there and be like, hey, like, you didn't come to help, but my plane got rocked by these Eldrazi, so I'm going to rock your plane. And she's off rampaging.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
Where the heck is Ajani in all this?
So Ajani...
Where did he start, and why is he just irrelevant? He has like 7 printings.
I have two things on this. One, Ajani is a little bit less involved because he's too expensive to make in a movie. They won't admit to it, but he's definitely a more expensive character to be a main character versus a supplemental character.
He'd be so sweet if he was...
He's going to be in it, but they're basically establishing that Ajani is now Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Okay.
So Ajani is older than everyone. Ajani Vengeance happened a long time ago.
Right.
And so he's like aging. He's like back in his prime he was fighting it. So Ajani went and helped Elsbeth during Theros block, which I don't think we're gonna get into today because it's a really insular story.
Yeah.
But Ajani is basically on Theros, chilling with all the cat people, the Leonin on Theros, figuring his things out.
He's like, and like his later printings when he's like old and grizzled and like he kind of reminds me.
He's the mentor of heroes.
He kind of reminds me of,
also known as Obi-Wan Kenobi Gandalf. He could be a Gandalf.
He also just kind of like reminds me of the way that Denzel Washington looked in the Book of Eli, like just that feeling of like sort of grizzled and walking the world with like a backpack and like the knowledge to like take people down to like anyway. Moving on.
Yeah, so that's where he is and all this. And again, that Theros story, pretty cool, but very insular. So, so back on Innistrad. And that's why a lot of people theorize that, Emrakul is the big baddie of Innistrad causing all the madness because, again, you can follow the whole, the whole clue thing?
Yes, well, I don't know it, but I mean...
So the Tamio's journal flavor text is
Yep.
different in different printings and different languages, stuff
Okay.
like that. And the number, it says entry, and it's a 3-number entry. It'll say like 246 or whatever.
Got it.
And if you go look at all the clues, all the clue tokens have a different flavor text, and
Okay.
each one has a different number of letters. So the entry basically tells you, all right, the first number tells you which clue to go look at. Let's say the first number is 5. So you go find the clue that has 5 words in its flavor text, and then the next 2 numbers tell you which word it is and where it falls into the
It's a
end,
sweet puzzle.
the end code or whatever. And the end code is, remember they came in 3.
Which is a flavor text from a card in Battle for Zendikar block where Ugin is talking to Jace, and he says
Got
that.
it.
Here's the deal. Emrakul is coming.
Got it. Because we only have gotten one version of Emrakul. So how are we going to get Emrakul on another?
So
remember-
Planeswalker. So Eldrazi are the only other thing other than Planeswalkers that can travel between planes because they don't live on planes; they live in the space in between them.
planes.
Blind eternity.
And Emrakul's abilities are to make people mad. She's where Kozilek affects gravity and reality,
Right.
and Kozilek consumes. Emrakul affects minds and biology. Sorry, Ulamog consumes. Yeah.
Goes like a matter reshaper, right? So
Right.
he does all the gravity
Like
stuff.
gravity, reality is warping around
Right.
his.
And then Emrakul is madness. So that's why it's like, oh, well, obviously, the madness guy is causing the... So that's why they think the only thing powerful enough to make an angel go mad is Emrakul.
So are we thinking that we're going to get Emrakul in the next set?
Emrakul will be a flip card in the next set.
So here's what I'm thinking. So take a look at Nahiri.
Yeah.
Right? One of her abilities is exile target tap creature, artifact, or enchantment.
Right.
Like, why on earth do we need to exile enchantment or artifacts? Like, that's not really relevant.
Yeah, right.
So we think that there might be something in the next set that basically it might be like a call. If you look at the cards,
Emrakul,
and so she could be, because she's a harbinger, right? The harbinger, and
Right.
so she comes before the great destruction,
And the idea is she also plays really well with Emrakul.
Right.
Old Emrakul, because her 2 abilities
Yeah.
are discard a card, so you can, if it's in your hand, you can get rid of it,
Yeah.
draw a new one, and then her ultimate is to put it from your deck into play.
Right.
Her literal ultimate ability is
Get
finding Emrakul.
And
She
then-
her plus ability works
he
really
has
well with
haste.
Madness too.
And
Right.
discarding him so he reshuffles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On top of that, the Cryptolith. So if you
Right.
look at all the Innistrad cards, almost all of them have these little they look like slivers almost,
Yeah,
but they're
right.
made out of
Sort
rocks.
like tentacle looking things.
And the idea is it's Nahiri making those to call Emrakul to
I see.
Innistrad.
Okay.
And it's on its way, causing all of this madness to happen.
So that's where we're at in the story right now.
That's where
Yeah,
we're literally
so-
at today.
Yeah, so what's going on is Jace is over here trying to find out what's going on. And so following the story right now, it's like, here's a story over here, here's a story over here. And eventually, they're probably going to bring it all together. Like right now, I have no idea why they even spent the chapter on the Gitrog monster, but he got an entire story all to himself.
Well, they do that. They do that where they do, especially in the Wizards has said the first couple weeks, especially during the release, are a lot more world building stories.
Okay.
And the stories between the 2 sets coming out are much more continuation of plot
So
stories.
is this all Uncharted Realms stuff? You're
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that's where the
Once a week,
chapters
Uncharted
come out.
Realms comes out. It's literally a continuation of the story. Sometimes it's a small story.
Did they stop making books?
Yeah.
Yes.
They stopped making books 5 years ago.
Got it. Okay. I see. I've paid no attention to any of this, so I didn't really know.
Like, isn't Agents of Artifice is the last book, and that's from Shards of Alara block.
Got it.
And they also said because not everybody reads Uncharted Realms, that's why they wanted to put a lot of the story in the cards. So that's why you're going to have key cards, things like Tammy's journal, for example, so you can kind of see, oh, hey, there's Jace getting the journal. So the pivotal cards in this set are obviously English Unmaking is one of them.
Yep.
What's the Absence Judgment?
Yep.
Because
Yeah, that makes
she comes in fighting Jace and stuff.
You wouldn't call Avacyn a key card? The fact that she flips and she's like a...
No, she's a character card. Character cards are different.
Yeah,
than
so
key
these are
cards.
pivotal
I see.
moments.
These are pivotal moments of the story.
Okay.
So, in Battle for Zendikar block, there's the one that all things lose hexproof and indestructible, the green enchantment, and that's Nissa using her ability to make it so they can kill the planeswalkers. And then there's the Chandra Surge card that does X damage to things, and that's Chandra killing both of the planeswalkers,
Okay.
Both of the Eldrazi.
Is that Titan's Forge? Titan Forge?
Titan's Fall.
No, Titan's Fall.
Fall.
Yeah.
This one, it's Avacyn attacking Jason Tamio, Soren killing Avacyn.
There's 3 before. Those are towards the end.
My phone's dead. I can't look at the cards.
I have it.
Anyone on the chat? No. Tell us. Well, I bring up some fun facts. So the one thing is, cool things about Nahiri. She's the person who trained the Stoneforge Mystics.
Ah.
Yeah.
So she is a Stoneforge Mystic, but in the sense that she is the person responsible for, like, all Stoneforge Mystics are practicing the art of Nahiri's lithomancy.
I see.
Other fun facts from the chat that I want to bring over. Liliana is older than Ajani. Someone asked.
Oh. So she's Melisandre.
Who?
Yeah.
Lady Melisandre?
Yeah. Spoiler. She's old. Real old.
Yeah.
But right now, there are 4 Gatewatch members. The other thing to keep in mind is during the Comic-Con storyline announcement for Magic Origins and Battle for Zendikar, because they announce the fall set at Comic-Con every year.
Right.
Or they announce a lot of information from the fall set. They basically said the Magic Origins are our 5 main characters.
Okay.
Then Gatewatch came out 6 months later, and they were like, all right, now we're forming the Gatewatch, which is our team of Planeswalkers. But there was only a green, white, blue, and red one.
Okay.
Liliana is that 5th Gatewatch member.
Okay.
I would bet a pack war with you on the next live stream that Liliana will have an oath card.
Oath of Liliana?
There will be an Oath of Liliana in the next set.
And that's because we didn't
You
get
think
a black.
so?
We didn't get a black. We didn't get a black.
For sure. Yeah, I think 2 things will happen. I think Liliana will help defeat Emrakul. In return, Jace will help Liliana figure out her business with the Chain Veil.
They used to be a thing, you know.
And I did, yeah.
Yeah, like
Every time they have a story, there's a lot of like romance,
like a lot of like
between the 2 of them.
tension going on. I'm like, what? I'm like, did they used to be a thing? And people were like, oh yeah, they used to be like a thing.
Which is kind of weird. It's like when like a 65-year-old dude's dating a 20-year-old.
You're a
It's like,
Planeswalker. It doesn't matter. It's completely different.
Well, so it was always interesting to talk about that. So there was no black oath, and that's obviously intentional when they do something like that. They don't ever make.
Liliana is 9,000 years old.
They don't
over 9,000.
They don't ever make like four pieces out of a 5-piece cycle.
Oh, that's true.
So,
Good point.
but there is actually one interesting example of this, and this is in the previous Innistrad, and this is it. This is the fact that they made there's Diagraph Captain who's blue black.
Oh, the four.
There's
uncommon lords.
There's Immerwolf, which is green red. There's the Vampire one, which is black red, and then there's
Stormkirk Noble.
What?
Stormkirk Noble.
No, it's not Noble. It's Stormkirk Captain.
Yeah.
That's the black red one, and then basically the one that's missing.
Humans.
The blue white one is Drog's Captain.
Yeah.
But yeah, humans is missing. They never made a green white human captain in Uncommon, which I always thought was so weird, but I realized it was part of the story.
Right.
And then because I wondered if it was because they had made Mare of Aberbrock as a rare in the previous set, and humans were supposed to be represented as possible.
No, the intent behind it was always, and specifically, and especially in that set, was about making it feel like the humans were isolated. So
humans versus
so in the first set in Innistrad block, it was like the monsters are coming in and they're rising, and that's why you got 4. The humans were a little bit singular, but in that set it was all about like no, the humans are about to go extinct, so they don't have a lord because all of the monsters are winning.
Right.
That was pure that is story. So you can argue that there's no black pack because of storylines, but they've said the Magic Origins Planeswalkers are their main characters. Correct. And with that in mind, we're most likely getting Liliana will join the Oath at the end of Eldritch Moon, and then in response, the next set will probably be trying to figure out how to save Liliana from the Chain Veil or whatever.
Yeah. So which Planeswalkers are we getting?
You guys keep
in
talking.
the next set?
I desperately have to blow my nose, so just keep going.
Which Planeswalker are we getting in the next set?
Yeah.
For sure Liliana, and then the question is, do we get Tamiyo? I think we might get just one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Because they gave us,
4 in this one.
instead of 3 and 2?
They might, if we get 2, it'll be her and Tamiyo. That means we got 2 blue Planeswalkers, which means we won't get another blue Planeswalker.
Liliana's going to be a blue too.
No, Tamiyo's blue.
Yeah.
And Jason's blue.
Oh, you're saying they would give
block.
us 2 in the block.
Yeah, which never happens. So
probably.
Tamiyo would have to be 2 colors, and I don't think she's blue-white. I don't think she's blue-red. I don't think she's blue-black. And I don't think she's blue-green. So she's kind of mono blue,
straight up,
which makes it really unlikely. I think Tamiyo's going to be kind of like Ugin, where Ugin showed up all over Battle for Zendikar block, but we didn't actually get a card.
She's in art and everything. But
Yeah. So was Ugin.
Here we go. Key moments in Shadows of Innistrad. Descend upon the sinful when the angels go crazy and they swoop down and they start purging the earth of sin. So that's Descend upon the sinful. Tamiyo's journal, where Jace goes and finds what's going on.
Tamiyo's journal.
Yeah. Why are the angels going crazy? There's that one. Epiphany at the Drown Yard, where he goes to the shore and he finds all the cryptolisks pointing to this one spot. There's all these cryptolisks in a circle, and he goes out there. The tides are going crazy, so he thinks it's some kind of moon magic, and there's like zombies and all this stuff just kind of like
chilling.
Yeah, chilling, and angels circling overhead. So there's just all this weird stuff going on. Anguish Unmaking, where Soren has to undo his creation, much to my chagrin because Avacyn is my favorite. And then Engulf the Shore, which we haven't got there yet, but they bolded that as a key moment in Shadows of Innistrad. So those are also in the Fat Pack. If you get a Fat Pack for Shadows of Innistrad, they have that book inside,
and it has all 5 keys. Yeah.
Which I think is slightly different than this list here, but yeah, they have it there.
So this is in response to Haberdashed, who commented, "I still think we might get Liliana the Veil reprint in Eldritch Moon." Or Eternal Masters, because Mauro said that he wanted to reprint her in M15, but mono black was already dominating standard. So here's the deal. They have basically said, officially, as an official status on multiple places, including Mauro, that they are no longer reprinting in standard high power level cards from Modern. As a blanket rule ever. And that's an issue. Eternal Masters is completely likely, and I wouldn't be surprised if she's in Eternal Masters, but she's 100% not going to be in Eldritch Moon.
Powerful Modern staples will not be printed in standard.
Basically it says they tried it with Thoughtseize and it was a giant mistake.
Okay.
So they just need to keep making Eternal reprint sets, which is fine because then they have sweet limited formats
Right.
to play.
We're gonna get right now we're getting 2 draft sets this summer plus from the vaults plus commander sets plus dual decks. Like there's a lot of stuff that they now can reprint stuff in. And I think they're going to make more of a concerted effort to accomplish that in those places, but we're going to see what happens. Actually, Chaz Andres, friend of the cast, previous guest, did a really good article on this today. It's on Star City Games Premium, but
I'll use your account.
There's definitely it's definitely worth reading once it becomes free in a couple months or a couple weeks. So that's kind of it for the storyline that we're going to go over today. We kind of went over most of them. So we'll probably take a little bit break. I do want to jump into Phrexian as we get to those kind of storylines. I do want to ask, while we do our sign-offs, because right before we do anything, I think we might have some questions, and if they do, we'll answer them. But where can people find you guys?
For me, I'm at Shaun Penrod on Twitter, and you'll see my smiling face there, which is pretty much branded everywhere, so you can find that. And my podcast is MTG Pro Tutor, where I interview professional Magic players and stuff like that. But relevant to this discussion today, I actually put out episode 1 of Shadows of Innistrad. I released in a special edition called MagicTheStory.com. You can go to MagicTheStory.com, and that's where you can find the highly produced rendition of Magic lore. So if you like this discussion, then definitely go check that out because it's really sweet. We have nice sound effects. It really brings the story to life. It's like a movie in your mind.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that, like as you said before, there's an option to continue funding it sort of per episode. So if you guys listen, and you think it's really cool. It's this sort of a thing, except you can really get into the story and give it a chance. Because I enjoyed listening and learning. I hope I didn't make too many dumb jokes, but it's interesting stuff. There's good story, and they're doing a good job now. I think with developing it, making it much more interesting than they used to. And clearer. So you guys can find me at Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram. I, as well as do this, I have an action movie podcast that streams live at 3 o'clock on Wednesdays, and I do a bunch of after shows and press coverage for things that happen. So I'll be covering all the press for Preacher on AMC coming up, interviewing all the cast and Seth Rogen and everybody this week. And I cover Fear the Walking Dead and The 100 and various other shows at AfterBuzz TV. So follow me on Twitter at Bateman Media, and you'll see what I do.
You can follow me at Kess Wiley. I generally rant a lot about Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Magic the Gathering, just rants. I'll argue with anyone over it. It's like my favorite thing is picking fights with people on the internet. Not in a trolly way, like in a just like I like discussing how right I am on stuff.
Like sometimes I'll need to call Alex for work. I'll be like, hey, so I have this, and he doesn't answer his phone. I'm like, I can't believe he's just not responding to text or answering. So then I'm gonna just create like a proxy account on Twitter and like start engaging him about Game of Thrones in the middle of his workday because he can't resist. He can't help himself.
Wait, have you actually done this?
No.
Okay.
This is what I should do though. I can't get a hold of you because I know you're paying attention, but only to those things.
Sometimes. Not as much. I'm really busy. That's the other thing. If you guys want to find, my website, I guess it's Kess.co, but if you go to Kess.co/GOT, you can actually find the Game of Thrones game I made and sent out on the internet for free, so you can try that out. It's sweet. And make sure to follow the podcast. We're at theMMcast. You should follow our sister podcast, Just In Life. Go subscribe to them. They're the Command Zone.
at rocketjump.com. And of course, we have a Patreon. Our continued growth of this podcast and additional content is helped greatly by you guys pitching in.
This exists. This was live because of you. We had a blue microphone because of you. This will have a YouTube video version because of you guys, Patreon members.
There's going to be video streaming, actual video streaming versions of these coming in the future.
Sure.
That is because of you guys. So we just are going to continue expanding and ramping up and doing more. But we have to continue paying people and buying things to help make that happen. So if you guys want to help, we literally can't do it any other way. This is the only income stream the podcast has.
Right, and I guess the last important thing is make sure to keep an eye on us at GPLA. We're going to be doing stuff. Keep an eye on Twitter, Facebook, all these places we mentioned. You'll get to find cool stuff. We'll be doing cool, awesome content there of some sort.
Yep, it'll be awesome.
Last but not least, we only got one question in the meantime, is what about Cavern of Souls? This is from Gabby573. I actually think that's the highest likely reprint for this set. It doesn't do anything negative to standard. It just makes the tribe slightly more playable, which I think is fine. So its power level isn't going to be that damaging to the format.
You mean Eldritch Moon will have Cavern of Souls?
I think it could have Cavern of Souls.
That'd be nice.
It's from Avacyn, so it's from the plane. That's where it originally was.
Yeah.
It plays with a lot of the themes that they're going with, and it does, making counter magic worse isn't necessarily something Wizards is like, oh man, we can't do that. So I definitely can see it being
that'd be really sweet.
reprint.
That would be really sweet.
Cool.
Someone's
listening because of you. All right, I'm going to stop the recording, but we're not going to stop the stream. Joke. Oh. All right, guys, how's that? What'd you guys think?
That was fun.
That was cool.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that a lot.
Did you guys enjoy it, stream people that are listening to me talk right now? I'm not going to do that. Someone came because of you.
Sweet. Hey, thank you, Dry Eyes Zero, for coming in.
Yeah, you should subscribe to the podcast at rockjump.com as well. We are good even if you don't play Modern, because we talk about all kinds of stuff.
That's true.
Yep.
That's true. So I'm pretty pumped about GPLA. I'm looking forward to it. It's so
Yeah.
Isn't it cool to have?
You're playing Boggles, right?
I am. I'll be Bogles.
Cool.
See, I run the deck, so I have to say it right. But
I would say Noggles if I was
yeah.
playing it, so you're good.
But it's cool to have an opportunity to meet people that listen to us. On the other end of the microphone, sometimes there's just avatars online, and now we get to go to GPLA and actually see people that listen.
Yes,
yeah,
I love the GP. I went to GP Detroit, and an awesome fan found me and literally gave Ben's favorite card, Spellskite. We mentioned Spellskite way too often. Gave us Spellskite playmats.
I heard about that.
VIP thing. It was one of the best moments, maybe in my life.
Yeah. You asked about favorite cards earlier. Is that what you wanted me to?
Yeah. What's your favorite cards?
So these are just to go for right now, and I'll tell you why. So I love Chroma's Memorial.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason why, because we talked about how I fell out and came back in. So I came in for a few months, and it was during Future Sight.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I loved it. I was like, oh, look at all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember opening that card and reading creatures you control. So all of creatures you control have, and it was just like this big old 7. I was like, all my creatures have all 7 of these things. How can they read? How can they make this card? This card is broke. So I threw it in every deck I possibly could before I knew that it was way too expensive. So I love that card just because it had everything that I remembered from back in the day, right?
I got back in at Future Sight also. A little bit during Planar Chaos, but I did, as non-starter, not hijack your story. I just remember that I went through a breakup when I was 18 with a girl. It broke my heart, and I remember playing in the Future Sight pre-release 3 days later because it was something I needed to do, and I hadn't played in the pre-release in years.
Yeah.
I was so excited. I had such a good time. I got a pack of negation, I remember.
Okay. I randomly have a Tamagotchi from that time. I had no. It was just in a binder when I came back into Magic for reals. My buddy's like, this is $100 and something bucks. I'm like, is it? Oh, cool. Anyways, and then I just love Baneslayer Angel.
Yeah.
Because that's
a good one.
Oh my gosh, 5/5 flying for 5 mana, and it has protection from demons and dragons and lifelink and so those are my. I don't know why, just somehow I ended up being a huge Angels fan. My first commander deck ever was Avacyn, so I like that.
That's the second most favorited
behind
dragons,
right?
Dragons. Yeah. So that's not surprising.
I don't know. It's not like I'm not I try not to be stereotypical that guy, but I just really like it.
I like zombies. So. I hate The Walking Dead though.
I like The Walking Dead.
You're legally obligated to Walking Dead.
I like wizards. I like what do I like in that? I like rogues. I like fairies. I like merfolk. Pretty much all the things that are blue.
There you go. Blue. Good. Yeah.
Merfolk are sweet. They've just pushed merfolk so hard now. The redundancy is just outrageous.
Would you say there's a mono white viable humans deck in Modern, guys?
Is there?
Yeah.
Is there a viable mono white human?
Probably. I mean, you basically you get Champion of the Parish as your 1-drop. You get
a few ones.
Thalia's
You get
Lieutenant.
Pantheon, you get Thalia's Lieutenant.
right? Thalia's Lieutenant.
The new one that's
Yeah,
the one that
Thalia's
pumps
Lieutenant.
everything.
Yeah,
It's
when she
really
comes
good.
down, everyone gets a +1/+1, and
Yeah.
when human comes down, she gets +1/+1. So.
that's definitely cool. I honestly think that realistically you could play.
You get Thalia, which helps lock down other people's
Oh
stuff.
my gosh!
I think you could realistically just. I mean, this is probably wrong, but you could play green-white and you could just play Mare of Aberbrook because it's just a 2-mana lord for humans that if it actually flips is just.
I think the cost of playing green, like you don't have to play the expensive green lands. You can play some of the less expensive ones.
Would you run Coco then if you're going for green?
No.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I definitely think you do.
Because
Why?
a lot of your creatures that you're dealing with.
If you get Thalia's Lieutenant and Mayor off of that thing, and you already have a bunch of good humans in play, that's pretty sweet.
Here's the reason that I say no, and this is something I've learned from playing a lot of Coco. So basically, if you have cards in the deck that are intended to be cast for 1 and 2 mana, like a high potency of them, playing Collected Company in your deck actually starts to lose potency as a card because it's a 4-drop, and B,
So you're getting 2 1-drops.
you're not getting as much value.
Because the deck is mostly 1
And you need some
2
really
drops.
sweet ETBs.
That's the point, and so that's why.
Well, no, but that's like Elves plays Coco.
But Elves is a combo deck. It needs multiple creatures to achieve
Sure,
its
like
win.
by getting multiple creatures, you're getting value.
You win.
Yeah.
It's like the same. But your argument would be, well, then why wouldn't Merfolk just absolutely play Collected Company?
Because double blue is rough.
No, getting green in that deck is not hard. Getting green, I played it with Collected Company.
Okay.
It's just not good because you just don't want to draw. You don't want to draw an expensive spell in your opening hand when the whole point of the deck is 1 and 2 drops.
Yeah.
That's like versus if you are so much more stoked to have things that curve some 1s with a lot of 2s and a ton of really good 3s, so that if you resolve Coco, it's like I'm getting 6 mana.
What's your timing right now?
I need to do things.
Okay.
We need to have a meeting, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All
All right.
right. You want to play Magic?
No, so we can record
Record what?
another episode.
I gotta go.
Okay.
We gotta sit down. And
Like
do
if I had introed what we just talked about, we were like a third of the way there. We're just not in that conversation.
Oh, we didn't go into like some.
We did not go into the Emrakul Nahiri list.
What does that mean?
Deaded 44, but we did talk about Nahiri and Emrakul being good buddies.
Yeah. So like the most off the wall theory I've ever heard was Morrow finally figuring out how to get the BFG into like standard or whatever. So basically, they're thinking there's a moon card and there's an artifact. And with their powers combined, they make Emrakul. And that's what they're thinking. You know, remember the un-BF
I feel like they would
whatever,
just do a flip card. I feel like it's going to be a flip card. It's going to start out kind of like some other type of permanent, or like the portal, and then it's going to flip into like a 15/15. Maybe it might even be like Annihilator. Like they might bring back some of the cool abilities. Emrakul.
And there's a history of doing that because he had the blade that transformed into a demon, which was really cool. I think there's so much good.
Yeah.
So, and like,
there is Soul Sisters as a mono white human deck.
Oh, is there?
I mean, like it's pretty much mono white humans.
Yeah. Hey, are
Soul
you in
Sisters.
town in June? Are you leaving at all?
I'll probably be out of town at some point.
Do you know which part?
Nope.
Decide what day. What day to throw the birthday. My
Oh,
buddy's
for
putting
you.
his work schedule. He's asking me which Friday or Saturday it's going to be. It's either Friday, June 3rd, or
Your
Friday,
birthday.
June 10th. I think the Nicolas Cage party.
Oh, it's Nicolas Cage this year?
Yeah.
We did Tom Cruise and
Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze.
Last year.
Saturdays are generally a more obvious time I will be in town.
Saturdays are.
Yeah.
Why is there some reason?
But there's like a wedding maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Why are they so hard to be in my life for some reason? Why would I think of that?
Because you work at a bar.
True.
Cool. All right. So for people on the stream, I think that's it for us today. I hope you guys had a fun time. We're going to try and do video next time for sure. And we might actually try doing this a little bit more on a weekly basis versus once a month, but we'll see if that actually happens. Make sure to check us out at GPLA. There'll be awesome stuff going on. We're actually going to record an episode. Hopefully, we're going to try and record an episode live in front of people at GPLA. So that will be cool. Otherwise, hit us up later. Bye, guys. At theMMcast on Twitter. Oh, make sure to subscribe. It's important.